Welcome in, Shield Brothers and Shield Maidens, to Shield's Rest. I'm Fry,
I'm Brown.
And I'm true.
and today we're going to be jumping into the mech hangar as our pilots build their first mechs. Let's mount up.
Whether you're a first time viewer or a returning viewer, please consider subscribing, liking, or commenting on this video. And feel free to check out the other videos on our channel where we cover a plethora of things, including DC-20, Daggerheart, and more. Fry, let's get started. I think True's going first, but I'll sit by and try to relax.
Absolutely. Well, if you haven't watched it yet, we did build our pilots in a previous episode. We'll have the link down below for that. But yeah, let's jump into it. True. Where are we going with this? What is the play style, the combat that you want to do with your mech here?
So, for anybody that knows Warhammer 40k and particularly the Tau, I'm a huge fan of the XV88. Although they are a terrible mech in the actual game, I still love them to death. They are iconic as hell for me. So, to that end, I wanted to have basically everything that the Tau exemplify, which is drones, large weapons, and more weapons on top of that, and light armor. So I really wanted to get that railgun situation, missile launchers, drone attack feel. Although I know that's going to take a second to build, I at least want to start off with some form of a heavy weapon where I can be either artillery or at least a defender and have one of those situations going on.
Absolutely. Well, to get started, we already have your initial frame picked out, right? Or built up, our Everest frame. We tell me a little bit about the weapons you chose, the stats you picked, just to see where we are at our baseline, um, and see where we go from there.
For sure. So I did grab one in hull and one in systems. I figured that was going to be necessary to start this build off. Obviously, wanting to have the health, but also wanting to be prepared for when I do have those drones and can do some system capability type stuff. So definitely went that route first. All right, so getting into the talents, I decided to take crack shot as well as heavy gunner and walking armory. I really wanted to build that idea of like, okay, I'm going to have the weaponry capable to do the job that I intend to do with this XV88 situation. So that's why I took heavy gunner and crack shot. Walking armory feels like a necessary thing, not for me, but definitely for Mark's build in particular, just the way that we plan on teaming this situation. And then getting into the weapons. I decided to go for the Cyclone Pulse Rifle because anytime you tell me super heavy, I'm gonna go for that. It just absolute love for a super heavy weapon like that, and the fact that it has reliable 5 is fantastic to me. And not doing anything less than 5 damage no matter what. That's exactly my kind of situation. Then I took the missile rack as my secondary since the super heavy kind of took my other slot, my mount, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, I'm
So
assuming
yeah,
was it
that's
the
that's
missile
what I
rack?
chose.
Gotcha. The missile rack, I think, is a main. I'm assuming that's a main.
Yeah, I threw that in my main slot, and then the Cyclone Pulse Rifle obviously took the heavy mount and then the flex mount.
Flex mount. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
No, I like it. And I like that y'all have already built this. For those watching, I actually have no idea what they have cooking for me. Rough idea, but I like that y'all have built it together. I think players should always build their in any game build their player characters together. So that so for the stats, I like that hole in the systems. Like I've kind of said in other videos, when in doubt, hole is always going to be a good one, right? Can't beat health, but not a problem swapping out of that. So we want to focus on getting your drones first, or do we want to focus on that artillery first?
Artillery first. The drones are kind of a nicety to help augment what I'm trying to do, whether that's shielding, whether that's a little bit of damage, a little bit of scouting. That to me is later on. I definitely want to focus heavy first so that way I can kind of fulfill a lot of the things that my pilot has, as well as kind of the plan that Mark and I have for how we plan on, tactically handling these kinetic situations.
For sure, for sure. Okay. So we kind of have t- two options. I know we discussed a little bit off camera on manufacturers, what we think we're going with. Obviously, in every manufacturer is going to have artillery, I think, except for maybe the IPSN. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but if we're thinking big mass destruction, we're talking big, powerful weapons, big, powerful energy, stuff like that. I'm going to suggest Harrison Armory, which I think we have discussed. But if we wanted to check out any other ones, we absolutely could. But for now, let's take a look at two. I have two recommendations for you on this one. We have the Barbarossa, and we also have the Sherman, whichever one you want to check out first.
Let's start with the Sherman because America. It just sounds right about there with the Sherman. I don't know, it just sounds cool as hell. I know I want to definitely bring that Japanese vibe, which would be SSC, but I think
Mhm.
a good look would be to look at the Sherman.
Absolutely. Sherman actually is low key, I think, my favorite. I don't know if my favorite overall, but when it comes to Harrison Army, Sherman is my favorite in look and all that, and just reading it. So I'm excited to start there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The
While you
Sherman
while
for
you kind of
sure.
pull it up, I'll do a little bit of a brief overview of it. So the Sherman is going to have what is called a integrated mount. So it has its normal three mounts. It has the flex, the main, and the heavy, which we'll get into the frame here in a little bit because we're actually not going to pick up the frame at license level 1. But with the integrated mounts, if your mech frame has an integrated mount, it will not take away from the mount slots you already have. This is something you'll always have on your possession. So it's just nice little nicety to have. If you end up not using it, no big deal. You can always swap to a different maybe frame later and just pull from the Sherman because it still does have some good stuff. But just know that you do have that extra kind of weapon there. But with the license level 1, how the leveling works is you will get what's at license level 1 there. But like I said, you're not going to get the frame itself until license level 2. So that's why
Yeah.
it's a little bit important on that first decision to make sure you're looking at that license 1 because you're not going to get the frame itself for one more mission per se or whenever that next level up is. So for here, you're going to get access to the reactor stabilizer. So this lets you reroll your overheat checks. We talked about it a little bit in one of the previous videos, but just to recap on it, overheating is as you do certain actions or certain actions are done to you that raise your heat. Once you cap out at your heat, you'll do an overheat check. Some bad things may happen if you roll low, and then that resets. So this one lets you redo that when you're getting into those big, super heavy, like reactor focused weapons. They're actually going to cause heat damage to yourself. So that's something you're gonna have to monitor while you're getting into these bigger weapons. Is that you are going to be burning through kind of heat. So this is actually going to be really great for that, and it allows you to re-roll those and hopefully have. You have to keep that second option, but if you roll like a 1 and you don't want that because that's going to start destroying stuff in your thing, you can re-roll it, hopefully get like 2 or higher. So good thing to
Okay.
have on your mech when you get into those railgun situations. And then you're also going to get that access to that laser rifle. So this one will actually use your mount, so you don't have to use it. It's just again an option that you'll have that you can plug onto your mech. To kind of reading through that as you're looking through the book, you have the 8 range. So that's how many spaces you have access to, and then it has that 1d6 of damage. It does 1d6 of a certain type of damage, and then it does +1 burn. Burn damage is unique in that it cannot be. It's not normally resisted, right? Sorry, scratch that. It's not that it's normally resisted, it's that it's going to do extra damage at the end of every round until you find a way to put out that heat, which topic for another day. But just know burning damage is actually kind of like a damage over time effect as well. So
I like
yeah,
that.
so that's
I
what
like
comes with
applying dots
that
whenever
look.
possible.
That's right. Yeah, dots for the dot warlock from World of Warcraft takes me back, man.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then so that's what you get at license level 1. We can kind of run through the Sherman real quick, and then we can hop over to the Barbarossa just to see what sounds best for you. But real quick with license level 2, That's where you get the Sherman frame, you get that rifle, as well as what comes on its main stat block. You also get access to a new weapon. This is your heavy laser rifle. So if you want to swap that super heavy weapon to this heavy cannon, you'll have access to that as well. And then you can stabilize as a quick action. Stabilize is actually how you can reduce your heat as well. So if you're building up those heat and you're getting to the point where you're about to do a check and you don't want to risk it, you can actually stabilize and just drop that heat down to 0 on a success. So this one's all about getting your heat under control.
Okay. Then what's the difference between the Sherman and the Barbarossa then?
All right, now that hopping over to the Barbarossa, I'm glad we picked the Sherman first because I know this is going to be. I just know in my heart of hearts that this is going to be the one you want. Big boy, size 3, biggest mech size option, if not, might be the only one in the core rulebook off the top of my head that's this big. But he does come with a literal railgun. You don't again get it at level 1, but basically you get this railgun. You have a 1d6 die. It starts at 4. At the start of each of your turns, you're gonna lower the value of that all the way down to 1. Like you'll go from 3 on the first round, 2 on the next one. That number bounces back and forth depending on actions, but basically when you choose to fire it, depending the number on that die, you're gonna do all the way up to 4d6 damage from that railgun, and it has like a little explosion. It does like armor piercing. So if you're trying to like for terrain purposes, I think when it's maxed out, it does like 100 armor piercing. So you just obliterate terrain with this thing. It's super cool. At level 1, you do get a couple limited grenade options or mines and stuff. So you have a lot of artillery in that aspect, the explosions. At license level 2, not only will you get the mech frame itself with that railgun, that's when that apocalypse rail is what it's called, comes with the frame itself. So you'll get that at license level 2, but you do also actually get a drone option as well at level 2 with the Barbarossa. So you actually do get to start on your drone dream right here at level 2 with the Barbarossa. You get the railgun and the drone at the same time. So I'll ultimately let you decide what you want to do there, but I think Barbarossa is going to be for you.
Take my money. Barbarossa's it right there. That everything you just said just made my heart fly right there. That's my dreams in one little mech.
What is the currency in
Okay.
Lancer? Do they use gold? What do they use? Trade? Off topic.
Mana?
He said, "Take my money."
Mana.
I'm like,
So
"Take my mana."
yeah.
Yeah. Barbarossa's it. I'm sold right there. I don't need to see nothing else. Give me the
Perfect.
keys.
Let's jump into CompCon then, and we'll probably have to go to the mech hangar. All right, so here we have the Everest frame set up. You'll see a little bit of warnings at the top because we haven't just picked them out yet. We're going to save it for the leveling up. But normally, before you would start in the leveling system, you would already have your systems picked out. Systems are what you're unlocking with your license level. So when we were looking at like the drones and stuff on that Barbarossa, that is a system that's going to cost points. Every mech has access to the GMS systems. You get that because you start with an Everest frame or the Everest frame from the GMS company. So you'll always have the GMS systems that you can pick from. And then as you're leveling up is when you get those new systems. And that's when you start swapping them in and out as you see fit. So we don't have any picked here. Just know that you will already have systems picked out and you're going to make those swaps as you move along. Also, depending on if you get more or less system points, you will actually have potentially more. I don't remember off the top of my head if it's 1 point of system or 2 that gets you an extra system point. So you will have a little bit of flexibility with those as well. But let's go ahead and level up and start picking some licenses. And here you have a little bit of an overview. Every time you level up, like I said, you're going to get I believe it's a stat bonus, talent choice level up, or selecting a new one, and then the license that you're going to be taking as well. Also, at this level, we're going to get our first grit point. Grit is just used in some of the math, as far as attacking and stuff goes. So we won't get probably too much into it today, but that's also what you'll get your first grit point here at level 1.
So you get another pilot skill trigger. We can cut this part if you want to look over
Yes.
which one you want, but
I'll increase take someone out.
okay. And you can improve a talent or select a new one, I guess.
I would like to improve the heavy gunner talent.
I wonder if I click it, if it'll just take me. Nope. Okay. Let me scroll. Heavy gunner right here. And how do we upgrade that? We just unlock the second one there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And improve mech skills.
Just go ahead and increase the hull.
Is done. And here's licenses.
Grab that Barbarossa, please.
Gives you a nice little preview of the mech too. I like
Barbarossa
that.
1. And go to Kyoto. He's now level 1.
Perfect. So if you go down to the systems, this is where we can go ahead and add that one we got from the Barbarossa there. The options that you would have is that I think the directed payload charges, as well as the siege stabilizers. So the purposes for this, we'll go ahead and just select both of them. Just know that you don't have to take both of them when you level up. You can pick one or the other, or if you didn't like all of those and you're just taking these to get to the Barbarossa frame, you could just keep the ones that you had previously from the GMS manufacturer.
And that's 3 SP, it looks like. I remember you mentioned SP in another video. So this is 3.
Mm-hmm.
This is picking from the Everest. So we're Everest frame
Yes,
picking the. So how much SP does the Everest have? Do you know, or is it on here?
So if you scroll up to the top, it'll tell you the system points.
Oh, right here, 7.
Yes. So each frame is going to have its own default system point range, and then as you level up your system skill, it will actually give you more as well on top of that. But
So
every frame will have its own default, and then you add on to that with your level up choices. So once you hit the cap there, that's basically it. You'd have to either remove a system if you want to put a new one on or anything like that. So this is where you do have all these options, but this is basically what rings you in and keeps you limited, so you're not just having access to everything all at once. And you can change these out, I believe, on like a full repair, which is kind of like a long rest or in between missions and things like that. So there'll be moments in time where you're kind of stuck with what you have, but changing them in and out is not too difficult.
I see. So this is 3 SP spent. So you would have 4 left to pick from the GMS specific. So you can really plug and play. Like there's a lot of options. You can really plug and play these. And now you're saying you can switch them. You think at a full repair or long rest? That's pretty insane. You can like kit yourself to the mission. I mean, you're gonna have railgun and drones every time, so who cares? But I guess your other support type systems you can swap in and out.
Love it.
Yeah, so it also gets to the point too, right? So technically, when you keep on building, right, if you're going up to license level 3 or at least license level 2, you'll actually have multiple mech frames to pick from. So you could be like, hey, you're up to like license level 10, 12, right? So you have like a lot of options. One is, hey, this is supposed to be like kind of a stealth spec ops mission. You can kit out your stealth frame build. And then the next mission, you're like, oh no, whatever, it's blown. We're going full artillery. Pull back out your Barbarossa with your Barbarossa kit for the next mission. And so you actually can have multiple setups once you get towards the end of the campaign and all that. So you do get to feel like a one-man army, but there's 4 of you.
Maybe another video, but where do we store all these mechs? Like do we live with the company, or like where am I keeping my Barbarossa, my Everest, and like they don't shrink down? Am I renting out a place? That's another video, but
yeah. So
interested in the lore
just
side
a
of
little quick
that.
on it. Per the rules, it's really not touched on too much, right? That's going to be more of a
just exists.
GM role play, like this how you do it. You always have access to them in the sense that, say you like leave them on one planet and you're planet hopping, right? And for some reason you don't bring it with you, where you're going to go in game is going to have a 3D printer there, and you just print your mech back out, and like your old mech disappears in some way. So like you always have access to these things because the 3D printing aspect of it is going to be wherever you're going, unless you like your GM just throws you on a planet that's deserted and tells you to figure it out. But for the most part, yeah, it's 3D printing is the answer to everything.
I feel like that's the more fun part of that is being abandoned, and just you got to figure it out. Like only Barbarossa stealth mission, Barbarossa.
Barbarossa. That's all you got.
Melee mission, Barbarossa.
Barbarossa. Hey, you don't need to be in melee if you delete the melee.
Yeah, if you kill them before they even get close for melee, like, come on.
Yeah, you're good. All right, and then as far as mech goes, the first level is easy because you don't get a new frame or anything. You just get access to the systems. So let's go ahead and pick up that second level.
Pretty much all the same stuff there. You get another pilot skill trigger.
Okay, let's see here. Let's go with hack or fix.
Got it. Next is talents.
Go ahead and unlock drone commander.
That's just cool to say, isn't it?
Like, come on now. That's a great thing to be able to call yourself. Yes, I need the drone commander, please.
Got it. And then last thing is your haste. Which one do you want there?
All right, since I've got 2 in hull, 1 in systems. Fry, what do you suggest here? Since I've got basically I'm going drone and heavy weapons, what do you suggest for this?
I think a lot of this too would come down to obviously we're kind of whiteboarding this, right? We're just building a mech while we're talking about it, not playing. I think a lot of this would come down to your play style, right? Like if you notice, hey, I'm taking a lot of damage, I need a little bit more health, I would suggest hull. If you're not doing that, systems is coming more into play, right? So it's a lot of it is going to depend on the gameplay. So let's just go ahead and slap it in system just for the heck of it. Since we are talking about, overheating, right? You have those big rail guns and all that. We could also do engineering. That's going to help you with those, the overheating side of things. But you can't go wrong. We can do systems or engineering just to round you out.
Let's go engineering for sure. I'd like to get a little bit more well-rounded in this build. Even though yes, it's not lasting, but still.
Yeah, so that's basically going to increase your heat capacity. So you're not going to roll better per se, but it's going to take you longer to hit that overheat check. So that's where it's going to kind of come into play for those. You get a little more wiggle room on your overheating weapon.
Hell yeah.
We're sticking Barbarossa here, yeah? With your second license level. You tell me.
Yep, that is.
We going Sherman? I'm joking.
Yeah. Hmm. Now what if I pick the Hydra?
So if
You're
you
getting
pick the
nasty
Hydra,
with
you're
this. I don't
only
like that.
so if you pick the Hydra, you're only getting the systems, right? So yes, you're license level 2, but level 2 is giving you a license rank. So you're only going to get Hydra license level 1. So you're not getting a mech frame at that point. You're getting more system
Right.
options. So to get the physical Barbarossa, you have to take that second level into Barbarossa.
I understand that, and I fully get that. However, the Barbarossa license level 2 is not really giving me. Ooh, I'm sorry, license level 2 or license level 1? Hold up. Wait a minute.
License level
All
2
right.
is where we're going into.
Yep, level 2 it is in Barbarossa, as I was.
Yes.
I was thinking I was going to get diabolical with this, but I feel like the diabolicalness can wait.
All you
Rank
get
2
is a
has what I
sneak
want.
peek at it.
Yes. Yeah, so and that's where it kind of got confused for me too in the beginning because not only is the license level 2 where you're getting the frame, that apocalypse rail, you don't have that until you have the frame because it comes with the frame as well. So when you're looking at the mechs and you see those like core systems on that main stat block, it
Mm-hmm.
got me too. I'm like, why wouldn't I just take a bunch of license level 1s before I realized like, oh, I don't get that until I get the frame. So it just obviously once you like click that in your brain, it's easy when you're reading through it. But like the first few times I read through it, I'm like, it was like I was like confusing myself because I was like, I get all this and it's amazing, but yeah, they do put a little bit of funnel on it, so you're not just loading
Tough.
up on cool stuff.
Tough. I was getting kind of excited for a second. I'm like, ooh, now that I got the Barbarossa, let's move on to really build this out. But that's fair. I get that.
And you can give it a different name if you'd like.
I know this probably isn't going to make any sense, but I want to call it Daikudo.
Makes
DAI.
sense to me.
Yeah, right? That's Japanese.
I'm gonna hyphen it just so you can see the break in the word, but
There we go.
look at him. Oh, he looks good in purple. I'm not gonna lie. That steel
Tell
color
me, I'd love to
bouncing
see
off
that
that
in purple.
purple.
Yeah.
Size 3.
So,
Apocalypse
so real
Rail.
quick. So now that we've swapped over to the Barbarossa frame. When you scroll down there, you'll see you have a whole new set of stats. So that's what I was saying. Your stats are going to come from your frame, and then the level up stats, like the haste you picked, that's where it's going to affect it. But your stats will always change for the most part as you're swapping mechs. Like obviously, some mechs might have similar health and all that and structure at the start, but each frame comes with its own set of default stats. So even I'm not sure your system points might have changed as well. So you might actually have more options here with the
It went down by
Barbarossa.
1, so there's 6 instead of 7
Yeah.
now.
You actually have less.
But I got more weapon slots.
Yes. And that's what's going to
yeah,
change to your mounts as well. So now you have access to a different set of weapons and everything like that. But if we want to go down, let's go ahead and look at the mounts because you do, I believe, you might have got some weapons with this one. I know the Sherman got weapons as you leveled up. It's the other stuff as well that you'll have to add back onto it so that those same grenades and stabilizers you had, but now you also have the drones and you have the launcher. So those are what you'll get to add on to it as well. I think between all of those, that might be all of your SP. You might actually have to drop. You actually can only pick 3 out of the 4 you've gotten.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is where the choices start coming into play, right? And so when we were talking about leveling up, right, we said engineering to help with those overheat to like kind of help with your heat capacity. But if you're like, I haven't had a problem with that while I'm playing, but my problem has been I don't have enough space for all the systems that I want. That's where you can add onto your systems because that's going to increase the amount of stuff you can add onto it.
Okay.
So a lot of it is like while we're whiteboarding it, it's hard to say. It's really going to come down to as you're playing in your campaign, what am I missing? And that's where your stats are going to come in. No stat is mandatory. It's all going to come down to the game you're playing. It's so it could really come down to your GM, right? If your GM is throwing certain things at you, you're going to need more of X stat, and a completely new GM is going to play a certain way, and so you might have to bump another stat to kind of counteract that. So you could literally play through as a Barbarossa with 2 GMs and you might end up with different stats because you're having to answer for the particular play style of your GM.
Okay.
Potentially, right?
I'm not gonna lie. This mech creation goes much deeper than I initially thought it would, which is a good thing. I'm not saying that in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the amount of like ways you can customize your mech, I'll say, pretty cool. I think
The depth in this creation is pretty great. I
Yeah.
will say that.
Yeah.
Sure.
The pilot took like
I
4
really wasn't
minutes. The
expecting.
mech is like a process. I love it,
Yeah.
especially since we're going
Yeah.
through levels
Yeah.
as well.
Again, when we're talking about whiteboarding it, we're burning through it really fast, right? So obviously, when you're playing, you're going through 3, 4, 5 sessions with your first level. You're getting the feel for it. So as you go to your second level, sure, right? Like right here, we want to throw everything on. But if you're going through, you're like, you know what? I'm not really using the payload charges. I can drop that off now at level 2, and I don't have to worry about adding more systems because I know I'm not using it. Just to keep that in mind as well, right? Where the leveling up process does take a couple sessions. I believe the book says, hey, you get a license level at the end of every mission, but a mission could be 3 combats, which is going to take a couple sessions. So potentially,
Hell yeah.
yeah. But I know you want to throw your drones on there, so now you kind of like have the framework of what you wanted, right? You got your big rail gun and you got your drones.
Yeah. Totally happy. I mean, having the auto loader drone and then the turret drones I threw in there, as well as a stable structure for the systems. Love that. And now I got my railgun on top. I could not be more content.
And then this is where we can kind of talk about level 3, right? So when you're going to license level 3, particularly when we're talking about the rank. So when I say license level 3, that just means you get a license rank that you can spend wherever you want. if we're staying with the Barbarossa, that'll take you to Barbarossa rank 3. You'll get it's an external ammo feed, so it's going to help you with your loading property. So with loading, I believe off the top of my head, when you have a weapon that needs loading, it takes like a full action to load it, whereas this kind of helps you once around load it as a quick action instead. Brief summary on those. So whenever you have on a turn, you either get 2 quick actions or you get 1 full action. With a quick action, you cannot do the same quick action twice. So if you wanted to say do 2 attacks, you have to attack with 2 different weapons. You cannot attack with the same weapon twice. Or you can attack or you can tech attack. If you want to attack twice with the same weapon, that's where you'll do a barrage, which is a full action where you attack with 1 weapon twice. So just something to keep in mind when you're going through combat and all that is, what do you want to do as far as your attacking order? You can attack and move, but you have to finish your action before you move. You can split the movement. So to say you can move 8 spaces, you can move 4, attack, and then move 4 again, but you have to stop, do that attack, and then move again. So that's where the skirmish, which is your quick action attack, and your barrage kind of come into play. Because if you're wanting to attack 2 separate targets and you have to move to be able to get to both of those, you have to like split it up, right? Because when you attack, if you're not in range of the other one, you can't do an attack here and do an attack there. Probably kind of a little confusing just to cuff it off because I had to read through it again. And it's really not the focus of this video, right? What I wanted to get at is, with level 3, if you don't want that ammo feeder, right? If like loading hasn't been a problem, I don't mind that. This is where you can say, I got my frame, I got my drone, I got my railgun. Let's jump into another frame entirely where we can start building on, jumping into Horus, right? If you wanted to go with the Hydra and get those extra drones in that system. The only thing you have to keep in mind is that you won't get your core bonus, which is those nice, like always active bonuses from the Harrison Armory, until you get that 3rd license level. So if you swap out of the Harrison Armory, you will not get the core bonus. You can take a license level in a different Harrison Armory frame, and you'll still get that core bonus because you've taken a 3rd license level in Harrison Armory. But if you swap out to go to Horus, you won't get a core bonus now because you have to have at least 3 levels in that manufacturer to get their core bonus.
Damn.
So that's
locked in
where
at that point.
Focused. Your core bonuses are probably going to either affect your engineering checks or it's going to help with your overheating and all that kind of thing. So it's really going to fall more into your play style, is where you want to kind of get your bonus from.
Okay.
I see now.
So if we're talking the book, right, that's going to be page 225 for your Harrison Armory core bonuses.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get your 3rd license level with them, that's where you get to pick one of these.
Damn. I mean, they got some great bonuses. You can't go wrong with that. So, I mean, it does make sense to just go ahead and commit to a particular manufacturer, at least for those first 3 levels, and then start looking at a different manufacturer.
Yes. That would be my recommendation too, right? Especially your first one, unless you're like, you've been playing this your season, you're like, I got a very specific thing I want to do in combat that doesn't rely on core bonuses, then yeah, absolutely swap over. But if it's your first run through and you're still getting into the game, get that license level 3 first, get your first core bonus, kind of get set in stone on like, this is what my character does in a nutshell, and then branch off from there.
Oh yeah.
And then as you get further on into it, right? Say you did 3, and then you swap over to Horus, and then you do 3 license level in Horus. Well, now you can pick a Horus core bonus to go with your Harrison. It's every 3 license level you get in a manufacturer. So you can't pick the same core bonus more than once. But if you just did 12 levels of Harrison Armory, you'll get 4 Harrison Armory core bonuses, or you can mix and match. So it kind of is another layer on your planning of mech choices. Do I want a core bonus from another manufacturer as well?
Yeah, this definitely got deep really quickly, and I was not expecting that at all. Like, that's a whole nother layer right there.
I love
That's
it. Isn't
nuts.
it exciting though? This shit's
It's
enticing. I'm not gonna
fantastic.
lie. When you
I know,
seriously,
I know,
start to
now,
build
like,
characters, you'll go down the rabbit
yeah.
hole.
And and I kind of wanted to like save that for this, right? Because it's very easy and not wrong to just be like, no, I'm gonna keep it simple. I'm gonna do my Barbarossa. I'm gonna go pick up some Sherman for 3 levels, and I'm gonna just be Harrison Armory, and you perfectly valid build. You will not have a problem. You're not going to see any deficiencies in what you can do and be effective on the battlefield. But there is a high, I believe, ceiling in the sense of you really can go all out, buck wild, picking up all this random core bonuses and systems and mech frames, and just have every option at your fingertips ready to go in between missions even. So it's not even the sense of like, I want to do this one hyper specific thing. It's I want to do this one hyper specific thing for this mission type, and then I also want to have a mech with all this stuff kitted out on it for this mission type. So you can eventually have an answer almost for everything, especially when you're thinking you're a squad of 3 or 4 players, right? You can really get into, if you want to be like meta about it, you can be like, let's build the sniper, let's build the tech person, let's build the tank, let's build the flamethrower guy, let's build the person who destroys buildings down for cover, and like have all these options between your entire group for anything.
Guess that's why they call
And I
us
also wanted to
Lancers.
just
You
flood you
got to
with
be an
info.
elite pilot to use 15 different mechs, but I love it.
Seriously though,
But yeah,
it's freaking awesome.
but that is, your first 3 license levels kind of in a nutshell, right? We're breezing through it because we're doing this kind of in theory, right? When you're in the game itself, you'll probably know a little bit better what you're looking for as you level up. But as far as even down to the comp con, it's pretty easy in the sense of like building it, and it kind of like, as I explained it, it was starting to make sense. I'm hoping it's on a very basic level of like, this is what I do. I'm picking up systems and throwing on the mech, but there is a lot of potential nuance, especially since we found out kind of live that to get your basic class fantasy took 2 levels. So you had a whole 3rd level where it's like, what do I want to do?
Yeah. Yeah, that was
But
wild.
Like, do we
No,
want
but
to
that's
do?
that's really cool. I think there's a lot you can do with that. You can keep going, like you said. I mean, you can do so much with this. That I didn't think we were actually going to be able to build what I was wanting to build. So I'm pretty pleasantly surprised, if I'm being honest, because I figured that was such a unique thing, but it's not that unique. Nothing ever is.
not in this system. Yeah, you can do it 4
Not in
different
this
ways.
system.
No, I mean, I was surprised too. Like, obviously, I'm over about it more than the two of you, but we've all kind of been introduced to this at the same time, so I don't know as well. So I was surprised too to like, we got to level 2. I'm like, oh, there's a drone right there. We
Yeah.
didn't even have to wait till level 4. All right, and with that, I know we promised mech building plural in the beginning, but for the sake of time, I think we'll cut it here, and join us next time as we go through Brown's build and close the loop on this duo that they built, because I am also excited to see what they've been cooking up behind the scenes. But until next time, keep that shield wall strong.